Good morning, everybody. How y'all doing? It is Sunday, and yes, we are aware that we started an hour late. We discussed this last week. If you weren't paying attention, it was your fault, not mine. Um, Adam is also running a little bit late. He said he was going to be about 5 to 10 minutes late. He's getting off of work as we speak, and we'll be hopping in his car. And guess what? That means we have two people doing a car stream, and I'm the lonely guy on the couch as always. So, anyway, with that, we've got Trail Dust, Robert Lonis, Ulbert Forge, and John Brunel in the chat today. I know John Brunel's being quiet. He's shy. As I recall, when he was discussing it last week, he just got back from a cruise. And I hope he had a wonderful time in the sun and the beach and the swimming and all the fun stuff. And yeah. Oh, that laugh was so evil. I shouldn't have done that. I love you, John.
Boy, way to just rub salt into that wound.
Speaking of salt, the ocean is salty. I love you, John. For those who are just wondering what's going on, because you weren't privy to the pre-show conversation, John Dalton told us about his experiences, and I'm not one to gossip or nothing, but I doubt John will be running to jump on another cruise anytime soon. As I understand it, he fell in the water and got attacked by a shark, and spent about 14 hours treading water waiting for Coast Guard to rescue him. Or I'm lying and making stuff up just for the show, which is I am prone to do. What's up, Steven? And it looks like we've got Adam just in time for How Was Your Week?
How was my week? My week was busy. I've done overtime this week for my work because it is that time of year where there are a lot of major cricket competition going on. The reason why you can see me in my car at the moment is because I've just finished doing a shift of overtime. So I'm literally, I just left the office, and I knew this is what we discussed the other week. So I jumped straight onto this in order to be here with you guys.
Right.
It's a little bit dark while I'm driving.
Right.
So other than that,
so cricket competitions, like who can chirp the loudest?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
That's
just
curious.
Sure.
That's what cricket is. All right.
Yep. Pretty much. No, but as is always once with what's going on with me, it rained again this week as well, so I haven't been able to do any smithing, which is really annoying. Every time I have a week off, it flogs down. So I'm well and truly over this wet season.
Yeah. Well, the wet season loves you.
Say, Alex? Yeah, I know. What were you going to say, Sally?
Oh, I was just going to say, I was going to ask, how long are you going to be on this schedule with the overtime thing?
I'll be on my regular shift next week, of course, this week coming. They've yet to release the overtime for the week after, so I don't know if I'll have any. But okay. Normally, I normally refuse any overtime that is under 5 hours because it's not worth it to me. So, and it just depends on when there's a double header matches, so 2 matches in a row. Normally it's Friday, Saturday. They just happen to have a double header tonight as well, so that's why I got tonight.
Okay. Well, we were discussing in the pre-show about the scheduling change and whether or not it was going to be temporary or permanent or whatever. And I don't think we've really figured that out yet. So it's kind of up in the air still, I guess.
Yep. Am I coming through loud and clear enough? Because
you are coming.
I've got brand new.
You are coming through loud and clear.
Awesome. Because I went today. I especially went and purchased a set of earbuds with microphones and a camera mount for my car so that I could still be live and in person whilst I'm driving home.
Yeah, I hear you. I see you.
Yay!
Right on.
And I am using
It's not illegal
natural
to drive
sunlight
without
to
them.
light me.
So just to let everyone know, I can't see any comments. So if you're reading comments, if you see comments, you have to actually
They're
read them out to me.
they're just making fun of me.
Oh,
All right.
okay.
Speaking of my
Well,
natural
technically
color,
it is April Fool's Day.
I'm coming in green. Let me adjust my properties. So Alexis, how was your week?
My week was pretty good. I got a decent amount of time in. I think 83 hours, something like that. So that's a fair week. It's not killing it like 100, 110, but it's also way better than 30. So yeah, got some good business done in that regard. Man, I really didn't do much else. Let's see, I finished up my project last week, so that thing was done. Yeah, no, that. All I did was work, and then today is Easter Sunday, which is the first Sunday following the full moon on or after the spring equinox. If that's not hard enough to calculate, I don't know what is. And it's also March 31st, Transgender Day of Visibility. So, hey, here I am. Imagine
And
that.
April Fools.
Yeah, right. No, well, no April Fools on this one. if so, this is an April Fool's joke. It's been going on for 5 years. But
No. I'm not saying April Fools for that. I'm saying like it's three kind of holidays. Just
yeah. And then tomorrow's April 1st. So yeah, it's all kind of coinciding into the same same deal. And I don't know. I've got an episode of Alexis Unhinged on the hook that next time I get a chance, I'm gonna throw that out there. But I think tonight, we may have talked Yamez into actually doing a forging show tonight,
why
and
you gotta?
if he's able to pull that off, that would be amazing. And just saying. And I figured I'd have to bring that up in chat and throw you under the bus so that you can't just back out of it as easily, And so, other than that, that's my week. Yamez, how was your week?
I'm
You
death
can't
glaring
do
you right
it.
now. I'm death glaring you. Yeah, my week was God, it's hard to remember. It's I'm remaining in one of those weird states of like perpetually busy, but like also with a ton of time on my hands. It's like I'm finding a ton of time on my hands and making sure I do something with it. And it's like, yeah. So, yes, I am just comic relief. I can swing a hammer, and I spent some time in the garage in my shop over this week, just staring longingly at the tongs that I won at Quad State last year, and going, man, y'all really need to get used. Some of them don't even have the oil burned off yet. Just rubbing the salt into all those who didn't win them. You plebs.
You want a set of tongs for them to sit on your stump over there and rust, just to never be used. It's like, do you know how much use I could get out of those things? But no.
No, I'm gonna put them to use today. I'm just thinking of what to do. It's like, it's like I got to get out there. It's like I got some stuff that I'd like to get done, that I've been meaning to get done. But I'll probably end up just, I don't know, making Damascus or something boring like that.
Well, you could always do a quickie and do the month of March blacksmith challenge and build a boot scraper with a scroll element and traditional attachment techniques like rivets and hot collars.
Haven't y'all heard? I don't know how to do scrolls.
Well, I bet you can figure it out.
All right, now maybe I'll do a boot scraper. Who knows? We'll see. It's going to be a mystery.
Come on, Bobby did one in an hour and a half. I mean,
Yeah. So
I mean, it took me 15 hours, but that's me.
I actually
Yeah, no,
just
the
had
reason
my
why I enjoyed it.
I just had my idea, simple and elegant, and going without going overcomplicated and everything. I got this. All right, yeah, I'll try and do a boot scraper, but I'll probably end up just doing twisted metal. Squirrels are just weird octopus arms. Oh, it totally makes sense now. All right. Wait, does the scroll have to be flat bar? Ooh. No, keep it simple. Anyway, so yeah, like my week's just been kind of more of that. Don't believe I have anybody in here that follows me on crypto or in crypto, so it's like I don't really need to talk about that, but we're chugging along with that. Sully's been sullied.
How does that go? It's like, I don't really need to talk about that, and then you immediately start talking about it.
Yeah. No, I'm not. No, because y'all don't care.
Now, Ryan was wanting to know, what's the name of your project?
Ryan wants to. I don't need a paper hands in my project. It's full of solid holders. The name of the project is Descent. The name of the token is Battle, and we've got our Shib Arcade NFTs, and we are working on a D&D 404 token, which is NFT/token. So it's going to be interesting, and we're going to be starting D&D gaming in a bit, D&D tabletop style. So it's going to be interesting. If anybody has any D&D experience or would like to join some games, it's a fun way to play. Soon. So, yeah. So with that, the topic for today is recap. It's recap of what we talked about this March. And the most important stuff that we talked about throughout this month was all happened last week in our How to Make $1 Million Doll Hairs episode. And those rabbit holes went so deep, but yeah, air sources. We sure picked a long month. It's like the month that will never end. What was that, 5-6 Sundays for this month of March? It seems like forever. But yeah, air sources. We talked about everything from people building their forge in a canyon where the wind blows and it creates a natural airflow, to bellows and people blowing through pipes. The one thing I don't think we really discussed was, for old style air sources, was the goat skin bags and holes in the ground where they literally dig a hole in the ground and cover it with a loose leather bag and then just have like dug trench pipe things to the side blast, and you'll just have somebody sitting there poop 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 to push air. But yeah, it's like, I know it's weird to say, but like, if air source is your biggest hurdle getting into blacksmithing, there are so many ways to create air. I know that Caratoke Blacksmith down in Ghana, Africa, it's like he pretty much, if I recall, he built his air source out of an old bicycle and putting some paddles on the wheel to move some air. I do believe since then he has upgraded, but if it moves air and you can contain where the air goes, it's an air source. We talked about tweers, we talked about clinker breakers, we talked about ash dumps, little bit about fire pot design, because that kind of ties directly into how the air flows out into it. Blah blah blah. Did the fuego get mentioned? Fuego. I do not recall mentioning a fuego. But yeah, which brings up to, and then there's the hybrid method that Alexis uses, which is actually kind of freaking brilliant. I mean, if I had the stones, I'd probably do that. It's like I'd hook up my hand crank blower to my or hook up my air electric blower to my hand crank blower, so I can choose, because there is quite a difference being able to give yourself just a real quick zoom with the hand crank, if you just need that little extra oomph, as opposed to that steady stream. It's a lot easier to control a hand crank. I personally love cranking by hand. And anybody else got anything to say? I know y'all are. Huh?
Yeah, I bet you do.
Yep. Did we mention compressed air this month?
Yes, we did.
We did. Okay.
I do believe we did.
I wasn't sure. I know I didn't bring it up. I know I didn't bring it up in my conversations about air sources.
Well,
but
give us a recap on it.
So in my coverage of air source, of course, we did speak about bucket bellows and leather topped pots. We talked about ancient methods, as Yame said, forced natural air, and air control with sliding holes in the and stuff like that. We talked about shop vacs. You talked about bouncy castle blowers, of course, hand crank blowers, and building your own blowers and bellows. We talked about accordion style bellows, the Chinese box style bellows. I just couldn't remember if we mentioned the good old compressed air, which of course, it is a viable method. It's something that's used in forced air gas forges, of course, but it is something that's still viable for solid fuel forges, if of course you can control the volume going into the forge. You don't want to be going blowing your coals everywhere, of course.
Hey, that brings up a question. I've never thought of that. I mean, like, I've got a pretty massive air compressor now, and I'm actually fixing to add a 200-gallon reserve tank to it. So I mean, it's it takes longer before it has to kick on and whatnot. I'd never thought of just like piping in an air line to my forge and using my compressed air as an air source. I mean, that's the possibilities now. I'm just like, wait a minute.
I'd say, particularly for compressed air, you probably want to have it going into some sort of large container, like a 20, not a 20-gallon, a 5-gallon like oil container or something first, because you want to take some of the pressure, because of course we know that it's for the best way of getting air into a forge, of course, is volume, not pressure. So by
high pressure, low volume, high pressure.
Yeah.
So if the volume of the container is larger, the pressure of the air decreases, and vice versa. Yeah. So like if I had a hollow cylinder that's like 3-inch or 4-inch, something like that, like your up tube that goes to your tuyer, and at the bottom you just got that little 1/4-inch air inlet coming in at 200 psi, and then you crack the ball valve to just the right amount of air coming through for your deal. I mean, because it's going to slow it down. It's just you know what I mean? Yeah.
Exactly.
I think it would work fairly easily, and the only question then is how much air is it consuming, and how often is it going to run the compressor? Because at the end of the day, I mean, it's for me, it's a $400 air compressor, and versus a $9 hair dryer,
Yeah, but I mean, there's also the fact that you can put a foot valve on it as well, and have it so that when you put your foot on the foot valve, it can run the air, and then when you take your foot off the foot valve, much like you could have a electric actuator on a electric blower. You can do the same thing for the compressed air, and that way you've got that control of being able to turn it on and off, not just constantly running. Or if you're using something for like anthracite, so you can have that amount of air running through, and then when you put your foot on the foot valve, it actually opens up more to give you more air in order to heat your fire better.
I might have to do some experimenting.
Oh yeah, I already see it in my head.
Yeah,
you don't want the ball valve. You don't want the ball valve directly going into the forge. You want it going into a container that when you open the ball valve, it pushes the air that's ambiently in the container into the forge, even if that container is a 3-inch tube or a 2-inch tube.
Yeah.
So that you don't have high volume air or high pressure air. You have, you're creating pressure that pushes the volume out. Yeah. Because it's like if you'd have taken, directly just crack the valve right at the tweer, it'd go pfft, and you'd have a volcano. Woohoo! You'd weld your clinker breaker shut.
And that's definitely an option for someone who has a large volume air compressor tank, or who has access to an air compressor and isn't otherwise using it. There's definitely an option, an extra option for that sort of setup, particularly for someone who has, we know anthracite is a type of coal that doesn't really like to burn without that constant airflow, particularly if you've got low sulfur and low phosphorus anthracite available to you as your easier fuel source. That might be an option for your constant air supply, in my opinion. So, we do, have to come up with some sort of design to help that run firstly. But I'm sure we're not the only people to come up with that idea.
No.
I'm sure it's been come up with before, but yeah.
Yeah. And to be said, these are all creative ways to all achieve the same thing that a simple fan can do. Like it's you reach a point where it's like, ultimately you're going for style. What could be the coolest, most unique way to do something that can be done with, a leather bag and a simple gate. So you're going for style.
Yeah.
You're like, I got 1,000 hamsters running on a wheel to turn a crank that moves a pulley, that drops a water bucket. Let's do a Rube Goldberg air source.
But you also use if it was a true Rube Goldberg air source, it would be an absolute pain to reset every time you're trying to get the forge going.
Right. They're like, hold on, it's like I'm trying to heat the forge or whatever. Hold on, let me reset all these dominoes.
It's a 300 action event series to pump the bellows one time.
Exactly.
I love it.
Yeah. Right. That's better.
Rube Goldberg machines, a model of efficiency.
So that's it. So that's a recap for the month. If I happen to drop out, give me a minute. I'll come back into reception. I am leaving.
Of course.
Leaving town at the moment. So.
Yeah. Potholes are a lie. I've checked them. There wasn't any in there.
But yeah.
Bagpipes is an air source. Real style.
Well,
you chat amongst yourself for a minute.
You could use a bagpipe
so.
Both my co-hosts are knocking out for a moment. So yeah, I'll bagpipes as an air supply. Let's go down that road. You play some beautiful music in the forge and have it just go, sound like a cat being squeezed through a, washing machine, or, the old ringing. But yeah, I mean, I don't know the volume of air that comes out of a bagpipe, the bagpipe flute thing, the jiggies. John Brunel goes, Trail Duds, bagpipes work as a beautiful musical instrument and would not work for a forge blower. I believe that's what I read. But yeah, what's up, Deranged? What's up, Chaz? Just seeing y'all in there now. But yeah, again, like I said, ultimately it's a matter of it reaches a point where it goes for style, anything that can move air from point A to point B being your tweer, point A being the outside of your tweer, it is a valid fuel source. Adam, you are pixelating very heavily. I can't hear you. Just so you know, your signal is gone and cannot hear you. But yeah, so like I was saying, being a recap and all, hand crank blowers. It's like there's many different styles, many different, the definition of a hand crank blower is, a paddled wheel in a container that holds the air, that pulls the air in and pushes it out a certain direction, and is cranked by hand using different gears, different gear setups. You got like worm gear drives, you got straight gear drives, you got, all whatever. I always like seeing the hand crank blowers where they'll crank it, like 3 or 4 times and then let it go and it just spins for like 5 minutes. It's like, where's the friction there? Come on. Mine, it stops blowing air as soon as I let it go. And I do remember with my, God, if I can remember what it is, it's a Champion, my Champion blower. It actually got locked up and I had to take it apart, found that one of the set screws had come out of it and fell down into it, then got caught in the gears. So I had to very, very carefully take it apart and learn how to take it apart, put it back together, and they're kind of a fascinating bit of tech, for as old as they are. And that, goes into that whole thing that we talked about all last year, how, if it ain't broke, don't fix it, and modern ingenuities, from long past times and civilizations are, only scratching the surface of what humans are capable of. Adam, I see you got a better picture now if you want to start talking again.
Yep.
There you
No,
go.
I was about to say, I was going to go back over exactly what you were saying, Bagpipes are, would make a beautiful music source whilst trying to forge, but it's that, constantly having to blow into the things in order to fire your forge and then, lean on them. Not to mention it's a waste of air with all the sound coming out. But, there's only so many ways to make air to get your account into your forge. Use what you have to.
Yeah.
I think we've pretty much recap last month. What's going on for next month, Yarmans? What's going on for the month of April? By the way, happy April Fools. It is technically April Fools for me.
Yep. Robert Lonis, yes, I did do the rebuild of the air blower live. Yes, I did do that live. But going on for next month, oh man, I'd have to check the calendar. I don't even know what next month is. Next month is the halving. Next month is the halving. Yes. Let me go into our chats and try and find.
Next month is April Anvils.
Anvils. We're talking anvils. Different styles, different brands, different ways to use it, different tools that go along with it. Probably be touching in on how to use an anvil, because, I mean, we all know it, but again, we remind you this show is for beginners as well. This is kind of a repository of conversational knowledge. and we'll let people know it's like, hey, the corner is for drawing things out. The horn is for, nice rounding things. Basically oh, my brain is just, it's basically a fuller. Sorry. It's basically a fuller to hit things on, as is the different radii of the corners and the edges of the anvil. Then you've got, but we'll get into that next month. I'm talking about anvils right now. Probably talk about the creation of different types of anvils, the unique and fun story about the Mousehole brand anvil, and so Robert
There's
Lonis
lots
is
to
still
talk
Robert Lonis is still figuring out that part of how to use an anvil. It's not just dropping it on Roadrunners. And Adam has gone digital. So give it a moment, he'll come back. There, well, he is either speeding or the video caught up with him. I don't know. Oh yes, and don't forget, you must always not preheat your anvil. That anvil video from, Mr. Roy from Christ-Centered Ironworks, pounding on a anvil made of ice, but it was CGI. We all know that. So yes, Adam is in the Matrix. Yes, Adam is in the Matrix. I'm trying to keep an eye on his video too, because when it clears up, I know when his video clears up, his audio clears up. And Alexis is back. We were just talking about anvils, and how next week starts Anvils of April, and not April O'Neil from the Turtles. So we can have Roy on to discuss anvils. Roy is welcome to join us whenever he feels like coming down out of his towers. All right. Adam, sounds like I got you.
Am I back?
Yeah.
Fantastic. Yeah.
I know you get twitchy when you can't talk.
I live about, absolutely. I live about 45 minutes out of town, so it's a little bit of a trip to get. I drop in and out of reception sometimes, but I should be right from this point on. But yeah, so this next month will also alternative to ambles as well, particularly for those beginners. And things you can use if you don't have access to an amble, because if you're much like me, ambles might be rare in your area. So those are things that we'll be discussing as well. I've actually really looked forward to this month, to April. I've got a lot of material, and even if I'm not on, I'll be given Alexis and Yamez I'll even stuff to talk about as well.
Yeah. Jeff Killian has a question about how to dress an anvil. He says, should one use different materials after Labor Day or after Memorial Day? So you can't put white shoes on its feet.
Yep. And just remember, if you're doing it outside, it's still considered field dressing.
Yes. So
yeah.
That's the trouble with these long months, if I may say so.
We just struggle. We need content. Quick, somebody drop something.
Somebody give us a squirrel. But yeah. Going back to air sources, every time I talk about air sources, somebody always brings up, the air gates and the slide gates and stuff like that. I have never used one. And to me, having air constantly run and having to control it with a slide gate is in my opinion, a waste of energy. While I understand that there is instances where a slide gate, an air gate is necessary, is if like you've got a air source that does not stop, or is inefficient to stop and start. That's one thing. But I mean, a hand crank blower, I've seen people trying to put an air gate on the hand crank blower setup because they're told that they need an air gate. It's like, you don't need an air gate for a hand crank blower, just don't crank it as hard. You know,
You have enough squirrels.
what? Were those even words? I heard you have enough sparrows. A variable speed blower. That's my electric blower is a variable speed blower, and I have a controller for it. So
Yeah,
it's
and see, mine's the same way. I've got a variable speed blower, and then I've got a foot valve on it. It turns it off and on. So I mean, like I turn it on, it spins up, and at full with the VFD on it turned all the way down. It's still too much air. And so, like, I step on the pedal, turn it on, and it spins up, and I let it come up to speed, and then I turn it off, and and it slowly winds back down. And so, like, I
you
click the
can feather
pedal,
it.
and it takes about 5 seconds to come up to speed, and then so I get like 10 seconds of good air out of just a click. I don't know, maybe a little bit more, but maybe about 30 seconds for 5 seconds of runtime. I don't know. But yeah, I just turn it off and turn it on, turn it off, turn it on.
Yeah, so air, to me that sounds like, what, if you need a little bit more sustained air at a lower volume, an air gate would be good for that. Just put it in by half, and you cut your volume by half, so you let it run. But or I would, because you have a hand cranker, I would just use that.
So would the air gate be the Rube Goldberg of air source management?
Yes and no. There were thoughts of putting in a large large blower to our 4 coal forges of the guild. My thoughts were it'd be okay, but make the slide gate spring loaded, so you had to be there holding it open, thus saving on fuel. See, there you go. That's a great example for an air gate. A great argument for an air gate when you've got one continuous air source controlling multiple forges. Yeah.
And that was a historical use of air gates as well.
Yes. A historical use of air gates
forges,
as well in the industrial forges.
where they would have one large blower running multiple forges. An air gate was used in that.
Yeah. In that setup. You're digitizing, but what I can extrapolate is that that was something that was used in setups exactly like what that comment from Bill Corey was. And I personally think when individual blacksmiths were building their forges, they saw air gates on the professional forges and put it on their personal forges, and and just got like, well, this is something you need. Let's listen to Adam come out of the Matrix. Yep. Uh-huh. All right. I have no idea what he said, and I'm not going to try to translate. Sounded like Look at the chat trying to keep us on topic. Y'all are great. I asked for a squirrel, and you give us the topic of the day.
I know, right? Can't win, huh?
I can't win. I tried to have a squirrel today. In my opinion, an air fare is a must to achieve proper fire control with an electric blower. Air gate, not air fare. My electric blower has 3 speeds, not enough control. I have a video on that. My old forge is on a dimmer switch, which wouldn't go low enough. That's because you're using a dimmer switch and not a motor controller. A dimmer switch controls the voltage. A motor controls the amperage.
Yep.
Bill Corey, with his hoity-toityness, he goes, I will only use a hand crank if possible. Well, la-dee-da. I'm just playing with you, Bill.
I like the precision of my hand crank blower. When I'm doing something that requires it. But what I don't like is starting a fire with the hand crank blower.
It is rough.
I'm sorry, but that sucks.
Personally
getting it running. I mean, to stand there and crank for 10, 15 minutes continuously. That's just like, oh.
Wait, it takes you 10 or 15 minutes to get a fire started?
To get it ready, to get it to the point where it's ready to stick the metal in to heat up. Not to get it lit, but just to get it ready to rock and roll.
Maybe I'll hook up my hand forge for tonight, or my hand crank tonight. Nah, I'm lazy. Man, they are out there playing on their yard tools. I can hear the four-wheelers going up and down the road.
I mean, I think I lost again.
I heard you for a second.
Yep. I was going to say another thing you've got to take into account with blowers is what you're using them for. Like, for example, we all know Roy uses an a powered blower, but he's also forging constantly in a industrial type of thing. He's doing it as he's living. So that having that electric blower there is much more efficient in that context. Most of us on this show, or parts, all of us hosts, but also most of us that listen to this show are, for lack of a better term, we're hobby smiths. Or for those that are getting into it, are learning. So having an electric blower with that sort of output isn't overly necessary.
Yes. Now, you did break up a little bit, but I think your point came across. I didn't want to throw the flow. Yeah, depending on your personal situation in your forge, whether it's hobby and you just do it a little bit, or whether it's professional and you got that forge running 12 hours a day, really kind of also, you want as much efficiency as possible when you're doing it for work. It's like there could be preferences, but when it comes down to production, you need to be as efficient as possible, or you just spending hours doing something that can take you minutes. Hence the argument that the traditional blacksmith techniques, is kind of a myth. The traditional blacksmith technique is whatever gets the job done.
So I was looking this up, at the beginning of the month, because the monthly blacksmith challenge was, make a boot scraper. It must contain a scroll element and use only traditional attachment methods, i.e., no welding. And I was like, wait a minute, welding is traditional. I mean, because so I was like, I looked it up. How long is something? How old does something have to be before it's considered traditional? And something is considered traditional when it's just the accepted way to do something. So like the accepted way to put two pieces of metal together is generally welding, and so that is technically now a traditional method of attachment for metals. And but so I was like, so what you really mean is antiquated attachment techniques. The old way it was done that they don't really do anymore because it's inefficient. So it's not traditional blacksmithing; it's antiquated blacksmithing. I don't know, just a little rabbit hole I went down at the beginning of the month. I thought was kind of fascinating.
And then they kicked you out of the group.
Right.
Oh wait, no, that's
don't be bringing that
international
woke blacksmithing up in here.
That's international blacksmithing. Never mind. um, let's see. I'm just reading the chat. I'm sorry.
Yeah,
John
read it out
Brunel,
loud.
which is why most pros use propane almost exclusively. And Bortagov brings up an excellent point, and I'll read it. He says, between electric blowers and old-fashioned bellows, I prefer the bellows, the relaxing sound of a friendly dragon's breath. And when you ultimately think about it, that's what it comes down to, is your own personal preference with it. You know, what you like about it, what your goals with it are. If your goals are out there to be in the shop, you know, and relax and have a fun time, you know, use what you like. If your goal is out there to be to create products to make money, and a lot of them, because you've got high demand, you know, you'll find that you'll switch gears pretty quickly, you know, just to meet that demand. Yeah. So,
what she said.
I personally prefer coal. I do use propane if I'm working production, you know, like when I have a whole bunch of stuff on orders. But I do prefer coal because they are like a propane forge is good for heating up the whole piece, or as much of the piece as you can fit in the forge. And holding it at that temp for extended periods of time, like several bars, you know, get them all hot so that you can pull one out, work it, and then put it back, and then grab the one on the left and work it, and then, you know, grab the next one on the left, go blah, 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 blah. But coal, it's like if I need to do a specific bend and I've got the whole thing hot because of a propane forge, then I'm dipping and sprinkling water on it just to shrink that heat from this far up the bar down to this one little spot right here. With coal, it's like I can control that. I don't know. I don't know if Adam crashed and landed up in a room or if he made it home.
I was gonna say that's kind of the what do you call it? The reason that I have you know, a propane and a coal forge at both of my locations, different things call for a different you know,
Yeah.
For a heat source, you know, or you know, or what have you. And you know, if I need a big one or a big spot heated up, or a small spot, or if I'm going to do a forge weld or whatever, you know, so you use the appropriate tool for the job, I guess. And you know, I mean, I understand not everybody has that luxury. I mean, you know, but it is nice. I won't lie, especially when you run out of you're in the middle of a project and you run out of propane. You're like, man, now I got a lot of coal fire. Or, you know, you start running low on coke or coal or something. You're like, I guess I better fire up the propane forge, you know, or, you know, whatever. It's a handy little thing to have both at your disposal.
Mm-hmm. And know how to use both. Bill Corey brings up another a good point. He goes, the reason I try to remain, air quotes, traditional is because I do a lot of demo in situations that is all I can do. So I try to keep in practice by keeping the process. I don't slight others who don't. And we don't slight others who don't use electric welding for their pieces. It's a great skill to have. I do slight those who slight people who do. You know, those who go, well, you're not a real blacksmith if you blah, 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 blah. It's like, shut up. No, you stop. You know,
right.
Danley,
and I mean, like,
shut
and
up.
To be fair, like, I like doing the you know, like I do I do a lot of things with horseshoes, and I could just zip them together with my wire welder if I wanted to. But to be fair, I so lost my train of thought now.
I'm sorry, had to be done.
Oh yeah, I actually really enjoy doing the rivets and whatnot, and that's I like doing it that way. It looks neat, and you know, so that's why I rivet. You know, I punch two holes and rivet them together, and and then do my twisting and call it good. And I like doing that, and that's why I do it that way. I could weld it and be done in a quarter of the time, maybe even less, because I mean, really, snap them together with a pair of vice grips and then zip, Bob's your uncle. But I have fun riveting it together. And, like this last project last month was my first time doing hot collars. And that was actually pretty fun, too. I mean, it was kind of a pain. I mean, there was nothing, it wasn't simple, but it was fun to do it for the first time, for sure. Definitely a learning experience, especially having to make the collars from stock beforehand. I mean, like I took some of that mystical quad state spline steel and hammered it down into 4mm flat, and that's what I used for my collars, because I didn't have anything that would fit in there. And yeah, that was fun. But could I weld it together? Sure, but I don't think it would look as interesting. You know what I mean? So like the rivets and the collars, all that makes that particular piece interesting. Whereas it could have all been welded together just fine, zipped together with nice, pretty welds. Not dirt dauber nest, and I don't think it would look as good. Yeah.
Oh, absolutely.
But that is my
more,
aesthetic and my preference. So go ahead.
And here's another an angle on that as well. Like for example, I on a Facebook group that I'm still part of, which is very few. I'm not part of very many Facebook groups, but there is a Facebook group that I am still part of, and there was a gentleman that posted a pot hanger this week. Now, most of the elements were forged; they had scrolls and stuff like that. However, he had joined it together with welds. Now, of course, he was saying he apologized, said, I've joined it together with welds, but it's still mostly forged. I'm of the opinion, he goes, I know it's cheating, and I'm of the opinion that welding isn't cheating. It's just modernizing, and even then, blacksmiths in the late 1800s popularized oxyacetylene and electro welding. So it's like Alexis stated previously, it is now a traditional technique. But also, if you're doing something like that, which is decorative, and you still want it to look the part using antiquated methods, but you want it to be able to hold up to the rigors and the standards that modern blacksmithing has. Another option is to, for example, do welds where you're joining things together and then cover them with hot collaring, because it still visually gives those elements that you're wanting to show, and you're still using those techniques. However, you're backing yourself up with modern welding in order to ensure those pieces are staying together. And that, of course, you're still doing the technique. You're still doing the hot collars. However, you're being able to back your work up, and know it's going to be able to last to whatever the customer or whatever the person that you're doing it for is going to put it through. And it still visually maintains those elements that we're wanting to keep as well.
Yeah.
So I was going to mention, like, so the two horseshoe hooks that I make for whatever reason that I do, and I rivet them together. If when I get done with it, if it winds up being like loose, like it'll move around, I'll go ahead and flip it over and put a spot weld between the two, at the bottom, in between the two shoes, just so they don't wiggle like that anymore. So whereas it's not exactly welded, I mean, yes, there is a weld on it, but it's only there to keep it from wiggling. You know what I mean? And I don't really consider that cheating. I think it's like you said, it's kind of backing yourself up, because if you grab a hold of that hook, somebody were to buy one or something, and it's just all floppy, it's like, well, what's the point of this,
Yeah. So with that,
I sometimes have problems with when I rivet something remaining tight through all of the different heating and cooling and moving it around and all that. And yeah.
Have you tried square rivets?
No.
There you go. Ba-da-da-da.
There's There's a
Or
joke in
two
there about Sully
rivets.
keeping things stiff.
Or 2 rivets.
Well, now that I think about it, I could literally punch a square hole and run square stock through, and then peen each side over into a rivet. I mean, Bob's your uncle. There you go.
Keeps it from twisting. Or 2 rivets. Or a slotted rivet. Mortise and tenon.
Damn, that was a lot of good ideas right there in one little shot there, Yamez.
I already have a plan for if I do it. What I'm gonna I'm gonna do scrolls for the legs and then a bar between, and it's gonna be slot mortise and tenon style, rectangular. But with that, Jack starts in 4 minutes and 3 minutes, and I would like to get to our quick final thoughts and let everybody get over to Jack.
Yeah, sure. My final thoughts. I'm glad we're finally wrapped up with air sources. This has been a long, arduous month trying to talk about the simplest subject, and we got it behind us. So, thanks for that. Y'all have a happy Easter, a fantastic TDOV, and a Super Sunday. I don't know. I mean, that's all I got. I got work to do, and I will see you guys next Sunday for another episode of the Impractical Blacksmiths.
Yep. My final thoughts are, as Einstein said, if you can't explain it, you can't break it down to the most simple and basic components for a child to understand, and you don't really understand it. So having a long months explaining air sources and blowers and all that type of thing, I think was a really good thing. It forced us to really think about how we induce air into our forges. But on that, I'm also glad it's over. I'm looking forward to the next month. And thank you all for joining us. Don't forget, if you can like and subscribe to all our 3 channels. You can find Alexis at Trent and Delphi Studios on Facebook, Instagram, and Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, Instagram, and YouTube. You can find Yames at Island Metal Forge on YouTube, Instagram, and sometimes Facebook. You can find me, Speedgrass Adam at Speedgrass Forge at YouTube, Facebook, and Instagram. Don't forget if you to hit that like and subscribe button and leave us a star rating. You found us on your favorite podcast platform. We go live generally 10:30 Eastern Standard Time in the US. It's currently 11:30 p.m. Australian Central Standard Time on Sunday. And it's that's the Island Metal Forge YouTube channel. This week, of course, it was 12:30 a.m. Australian Central Time, but that's only because I had to work late. So sorry about that. And again, don't forget to hit that like and subscribe button, and we'll see you all next week. Yanes, your final thought.
My final thoughts is next week we're going to do Air Sources Revisited, and no, no, I love air. I'm full of it. Most people are full of 75% water. I'm full of 75% hot air. Yeah, I don't have problems with the bends. It's all I float. We all float. But yes, we appreciate you guys putting up with us. Couldn't appreciate y'all more. Look forward to I am going to definitely at the very least bring my phone out there and heat the fire and hit some metal with things, with other things and do things with fire and metal in the shop. I believe it's called backsmithing, and I'm gonna give my hand at that first time ever. So so stay tuned for that, and I believe next week we will probably do same time, starting at 11 rather than 10, and we're going to discuss this after the show, but we might switch over to that, so don't be surprised if next week it's an 11 a.m. Eastern start time. And with that, catch y'all later. Go now and click on Jack Pine's show. Yes. Be gone.
Bye.
Bye.